I gotta wait for the. There it is. I hate that damn thing.
That's a cute little doll you have behind you, TJ.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Chris. And welcome everybody to the Dead Air horror review show.
Yep.
Yes. And yes, I do have a pretty little doll, and more about that doll later because you and I watched The Conjuring.
Conjuring.
Yes, and I tried to conjure the will to actually like this movie, and I couldn't do it.
Uh,
This is considered by most, Chris, and I think you'd agree with me. Maybe not that you feel this way, but you definitely would agree that it falls in the category of a modern horror classic. People love this movie. This
they
movie,
love the whole franchise.
this
Like this
this
is
started the Conjuring universe.
yeah.
There's like 7 movies, probably more, after this came out, and not like sidequels and all kinds of shit. Like
Yeah.
it's like the spin-offs to this movie have sequels. It's
Yeah.
fucking wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, we watched The Conjuring, and we're trying to put the trailer in, right? That's what we do.
Yeah, we do that now. That's our thing.
So let's
I'm sure we're gonna get shut down for copyright infringement. It's only a matter of time.
you just have to show just like if you cut it off at a certain point. I think that's like it's like 15 seconds or something like
Yeah,
that.
we'll have to
I mean, whatever. It's fair use too. I mean, like you see people all the time use.
right.
Anyway, doesn't matter. If you somehow lived under a fucking rock for the last 20 years and don't know what The Conjuring is, here's the trailer. Boop, boop.
Right, it's 9:18. We're headed down into the cellar where the doors just opened on its own. Give us a sign that you want to communicate with us. Nothing.
What are you guys?
Well, we've been called ghost hunters, paranormal researchers.
But we prefer to be known simply as Ed and Lorraine Warren.
There's someone here that would like to talk to you.
There's something horrible happening in my house.
It's November 1st, 1971. I'm sitting here with Carolyn Perrin, who, with her family, has been experiencing supernatural occurrences. You picking up anything in here, hon?
Something awful happened here, Ed.
What is it? Whatever Lorraine sees, feels, touches, it takes a toll on her. A little piece each time.
You have a lot of spirits in here, but there's one that I'm most worried about because it is so hateful. Look what she made me do. We have to get out of here.
That's not gonna help.
This thing has latched itself to your family.
Father, we never seen nothing like this.
I'm coming with you.
No way. I can't lose you.
There's a lady in a dirty nightgown that I see in my dreams. She's standing in front of my mom's bed.
So yeah, Chris, have you seen this movie?
I saw it when it first came out, so it's been a long time.
Yeah.
This came out in 2013, so yeah, it's been 10 years.
Which was 40 years ago.
It does feel like a lifetime ago. And so when I rewatched it last night with the kids, I like to bring them in when I feel like
you are
enough
just
experience.
going to warp these children. I mean,
I don't know.
This one isn't particularly that bad.
Nah.
And that's kind of my problem with it, to be perfectly honest. It's kind of tame. Like it's yeah.
So yeah, it's been a while, and I had to jogged my like I felt like when I first started the movie, it was watching it for the first time, and then I was like, oh yeah. And I knew exactly what to expect. And I think the first time I watched it, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Second time around, it just didn't do the same for me as it did the first time.
I can see that.
But this was your first time watching it, correct?
Yeah, that's why I brought it up that I wanted to review it because I feel like it's something in the public consciousness and it's just something it's somewhat of a well it's a major like blind spot for me as far as horror goes. So I figured I needed to watch it. But I was worried. I was genuinely worried because the people that told me that they liked it a lot
You
are they're not the kind of people that generally like the movies that I like, and they're like, no, but it's so good. And I'm like, well, it's and I had in the back of my head the whole time. I'm like,
yeah.
it's a normie movie, isn't it? It's a fucking normie movie.
Yeah.
And
It's
and
fairly
I watched it
yeah.
and it's a normie movie. It's not bad. I let me just start off by saying that I don't think this movie is bad whatsoever. I think that Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, I always say her name wrong.
Yeah.
They're both really good in this movie. I think the family's really good. The guy from Office Space, he'll always be the guy from Office Space to me. I
Yeah.
don't know his fucking name. He's been in 1,000 things after that. Like
On
the kid,
Livingston.
Ron Livingston, that's his
Yeah.
name. The kids are good. Like the wife is good. Like all the performances are great. I think it's overall it's shot really well. But like for me, like it's just kind of there. Like I don't I have a problem with like everything that this movie does is like jump scares and loud noises. Like I watch this for those of you listening at home, I have a ridiculously oversized monitor. I have a 40-inch monitor for my computer and it's hooked up to
Hubba.
these really fucking loud studio monitor speakers. So today I decided to watch. It's hot as shit right now, so it's cooler in my bedroom than it is in the living room. Um, and I decided to watch it in here, and the speakers for my computer are way louder than the speakers for my living room. And this fucking movie was like, it was like I was listening to a fucking Meshuggah album or something. It was loud as fuck. Like, and I was like, oh my god. But it gets kind of repetitive, like in its scares. Like it's kind of like okay, like after like the first dozen of them, you're like, all right, well here comes quiet, loud, quiet. It's like a
Yeah.
more music illusions. It's like a Pixies album. It's like the soft
Yeah.
and the loud. Um, but the main problem that I have in this movie, and this is the burning question that I talked to you briefly about before we hit the record button. My main problem with this movie, and I don't this is what I want to ask you, because I don't know if this is fair to the film. I can't divorce what I know about the real life Warrens and this movie. Because
Oh,
the real life
I
Warrens,
don't know anything about the real life
well,
Warrens.
they were fucking con artists, first of all. That
Oh, okay.
um the husband was a fucking wife abuser.
Ooh,
He beat his wife, and he had a fucking mistress who was 15 that lived with them, and he impregnated her when she
lived
was
with them.
17. Yeah,
Oh,
he lived with the two of them. He impregnated her when she was 17, and then the wife made her get an abortion. It's fucking wild. And I also just have and again, this is just me, and I don't really get. It's one of those things. It's one of those stances I have in life that I like don't give a fuck. Like if people get upset about it, I don't believe in supernatural bullshit like at all. Like I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in spirits. I don't believe in any of that shit. And not everyone. Some people are just genuinely interested in like what's beyond their scope of comprehension, and I have no problem with that. But the most people that like sell it, I have a problem with because they're grifters and they fucking feed on vulnerable people that want like it's like people like mediums, right? They're
mhm.
like, oh, I can hear your dead husband, and it's like, here, give me $50. Like, fuck that shit. Like, I hate it, and
Yeah.
that's what the Warrens are. They are. It's just look it up. I don't have time to go through all of it. Like, but everything they said was a bunch of horse shit. Like they said something like they investigated like 10,000 fucking cases in their lives. It's like, did you sleep? Like, how is that possible?
Do you think if
But
that was made public at the time? I mean, mind you, this
oh,
was
it
made in
was.
2013.
It no, people knew.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, they had so their house, their house that you go to in the beginning of the movie where you see
Mhm.
the Annabelle doll and all that shit. That house, I mean, that's not the real house that's in the movie, but that house exists. I went there because I
Really?
was trying to, yeah, I was trying to get with this goth girl, and she loved that shit, and I'll suck up and pay attention to that crap. We did a road trip and went up there. That we met
Where
one of
is it? Is it the same
it's in,
location?
yeah, it's in
Long
fucking,
Island or something?
it's something like that. I can't
Yeah.
remember. But it wasn't that far of it was like a 7 hour drive or something like that.
Mhm.
Anyway, I'll do a lot for Strange, okay? Especially back then. But my
So you
point is,
even got grifted posthumously after.
yeah. Well, the husband died in 2006.
Really?
Yeah. And I believe the
I
wife
don't know
is
why I acted so surprised. I have no
I
really.
believe the wife is still alive. But
Okay.
anyway, I have a, and also like the reason I have the regular Raggedy Ann doll that I cropped very poorly. So like in the beginning of the movie, you see the fucking Annabelle doll, right? And it's this fucking gnarly looking crazy doll or whatever. It's just when you see it in real life, it's literally just a Raggedy Ann doll in a box. Like I've seen it in real life. Like I've seen and they're like, oh, it's just like in the movie. They're like, oh, you can't touch anything. You can't touch anything. Man, I touched every fucking thing in that fucking room. Fuck them. I wasn't like, and you know what? Hey, I'm not possessed. But anyway, I'm getting way off topic. But I took a lot of that baggage into this movie, and I could be wrong. I think this movie would get bet I would have a better respect for this movie if they were just characters like loosely based on the Warrens. The fact that
Yeah.
they leverage so hard, like this is based on a true story. The Warrens like were like world renowned fucking paranormal investigators. They show pictures of the Warrens. They show pictures of the family from this case. They there's a line in the movie that I fucking that cracked me. Like there's a lot of laughs in this movie that I don't think are intentional. Like all the falling and the people getting drug around. I was just laughing. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
There's one point where Vera Farmiga like falls to the
Oh
floor
my
and
God. She fell like 20 floors.
she fell,
She
she
just
fell,
kept falling.
she
I
like
clocked it. She fell for 5 minutes.
it literally felt like a Looney Tunes where it's like dunk 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 or like Homer falling off the side of Springfield Gorge or something. But there's a point where they say that Vera Farmiga is a talented clairvoyant. The fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
Like y'all know psychics ain't real, right? Like
Right.
anyway,
Well, some
but
people
maybe
believe it. That's the thing.
but,
Some people totally buy into it.
but maybe Chris, maybe I'm too much of a fucking skeptic. I don't know because like I as soon as they like try to cram in like the real life stuff, it's like, well, you can't do that because I know the real life stuff
Yeah.
and it doesn't work. I feel like if it was like, because I don't know if you know this, you probably already know this, but you know the Amityville Horror, right? It's
Yeah.
a classic '70s movie.
Mhm.
For the longest time, one of the highest grossing independent films ever made. That is based on a Warren case. That is based off of something that the Warrens did. They wrote a book, or I don't think they wrote the book. Somebody else wrote a book about the Amityville Horror, and they mentioned the Warrens. Um, so they're deep. I mean, that helped them get renowned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, the whole thing, they made a whole career out of this. I mean, they were getting paid big money to do investigations. You know, in this movie, they they notoriously don't say like, hey, we're just going to show up in this house for free, like pro bono. Oh no, no, no. They charge this family money the whole time. Like, and again, I now my question is to you, and I ram. You know what I do? I rant and rave. I
No, I
ramble.
love this. I could listen to this all day.
For at least 20 minutes. Um, is this fair to the film, or is it not fair to judge a movie like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
am I off base?
No, I mean, you have every right to judge and be skeptical, but well, I'm not just guessing, you're not their demographic that they're going for.
That
Um,
is also true. That is very true.
they're going for, like you said before, the mainstream kind of horror fan that casually watches horror movies or wants to go on a date.
And
And
they fucking nailed it. First of
yeah,
all, they nailed the normie horror audience.
it's
This is
it's a
like
date night horror movie.
that's a great, you know what? That bravo. That is a great way to, no, I mean, really, like,
Yeah.
honestly, that is what this is. Like,
Yeah.
this is something that, like, it's scary. It's got creepy moments, but it's easily digestible, and it's not too disturbing. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like, you see that woman's feet, the witch or whatever that was hung or hanged. I don't know which is the correct thing to say. But
Hung it.
like, it's not like, last episode we talked about how we have to stay. Like, I think that absolute horror is staying with the moment and being forced to confront something that you don't want to see. But what does this movie do? It shows everything like in like 2 seconds. Like, you see like the witch, and she jumps on the kid, and it's like it cuts. It's done. You
Yeah.
see the woman and the wife, and her bruises are getting really bad, but it cuts, and then she gets drug out into the fucking hallway. Like,
Yeah.
you're not confronted with anything too uncomfortable for very long at all.
No.
And I think I think like you really scratched like something right there. I think that's a very cogent point. Like, this is a mainstream horror movie, like, through and through. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely, that's a great way to put it.
It's the Blink 182 of horror movies.
I mean, it is, right?
Yeah.
Like, because it is, again, like, it's very competently made. Like, it's
Because you can
not.
find something you like in it,
Mhm.
where you're not going to like the entire movie. I mean, you and I, like, I
Yeah,
haven't said my piece yet, but
yeah,
I share very
yeah. I'm sorry.
reviews. No,
I've
no,
been
no, no.
bull
I'm
rushing
just,
this whole
you
shit.
pretty much summed up everything I was going to say. This might be the quickest podcast we have, but
Yeah,
it's milk toast. It's okay. It's just, it is what it is. And, like, I can totally see why other people enjoy it.
yeah.
And you're
That's
right.
how I
Like, you're
feel.
not confronted with anything too scary for too long. I
Mm-mm.
liked when they had the scary stuff, like the jump scares were cool, but they
Yeah,
were over so quick, you barely
yeah.
have time to process it.
The only thing you had to process was the big loud boom that accompanied all of them. And like, I even think that, like, visually, like, the like VFX for like the gore, and like when you saw like the
The
corpses and stuff,
bruises, that was
it
bad.
looked pretty good. I thought, like,
At
I
the end when the bruises went away,
that looked bad. That looked
yeah,
real bad.
that was unnecessary.
Also, about this movie, something that I had a problem with, there's too much going on in this movie. Like, the Annabelle, like, side plot,
Yeah.
it seems so forced. And like, I know they spun Annabelle.
Oh, you froze. I think I lost you. Row.
Off into like her own movie.
Hey TJ, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you start? You froze. Can you start
Mhm.
again? Uh,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry. So
No,
you try to do
I
too many things at once.
yeah, I feel like the Annabelle side plot was completely, you could have cut it completely. I felt like they were stretching for time, or possibly they already knew they were going to make these Annabelle
You're
spin-offs.
probably right.
Because like, I now keep in mind, I liked the cold open. The cold open with the Annabelle doll was
Yeah.
great, but just stop there. Because like, the whole thing where it like goes, like, you're dealing with the possession in the house and that whole thing, and that's like taking up the whole movie. And then all of a sudden, like, with 20 minutes left in the movie, they're like, oh wait, our daughter's in trouble because of the fucking Annabelle doll. It's like, what? Why? Like, where did this come from? Like, huh? And like, it like derails the movie, and then like it gets resolved way too quick, and then they go back to the house, and it's like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I was really confused, and like, it seemed, again, I don't know if they already knew that they were going to do all the shit that they ended up doing after this movie, but it seemed very forced.
Yeah.
um I also, one thing that drove me nuts in this whole movie, did nobody in the 70s own a fucking flashlight? Like, every goddamn time they needed to look in a dark area, it's like, hand me the matches.
Match it.
Who
Yeah. I
who the fuck is like, like, oh shit, it's dark in here, light some fucking matches. What is this? The fucking, is this fucking Skyrim? What are you doing? Like,
I know
what?
they have cameras with flashes. They
I
couldn't
mean,
invest in a flashlight.
why don't you just have fucking braziers in your fucking house if you're constantly lighting the room with fire? Like, what? And also, this is maybe because I'm in the HVAC business. Um, I am to understand they bought this house and they didn't understand if there was a furnace in it because they didn't know the furnace was there until they busted into that secret basement. Like,
Right.
what?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Did they buy it sight unseen? And how else did they expect to access any of that equipment?
Right.
Water heater, boiler, whatever. Like they're
Old
just like,
piano. I don't know. It's like, yeah, I mean, I guess they bought it. I mean, they did describe the family as being in like kind of desperate straits. So I guess maybe they bought a house sight unseen, but
they should
that,
have had a HVAC
I mean,
continuity expert on set so they could.
or yeah. I mean, or like, I don't know, the 70s were fucking wild. Who knows? Maybe people just, the house was probably $500. You never know. Like,
They probably thought somebody was doing them a favor by boarding up the basement. Like, oh, you don't want to go down there. We boarded it up for you.
yeah.
We
Don't
pre-boarded.
worry. If you want to go, if you don't want to go, if you want to go down there, we left a whole book of matches so you can fucking see your way down. Like, that shit bothered me so much. Like, what is it? The matches, like, it was
Yeah,
like, I understand why,
right.
because it's cool
For the
visual effect.
effects.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a cool effect, and also like I think one of the best sequences in the movie. It's very brief, like everything else in the movie. Is they establish also like whoever played hide and seek the way that these kids play hide and seek. It's fucking insane. They blindfold each other and then they have to clap. I've never heard of this
And the
before.
parents seem perfectly fine with it. Like they're
Oh
not
yeah,
gonna fall down a flight of stairs.
thank you. Yeah, it's fucking
Yeah.
insane. But anyway,
Yeah.
again, it's probably just to service the only genuinely good scare I thought in the whole movie was when the mom, she's in the basement
Mm-hmm.
and her fucking matches are about to burn out and you see just ghost hands and they go,
Yeah.
that was great. I was like, that was clever because you already
Oh, that
established the
was in
clap.
the upstairs in the bedroom when the
Yeah.
closet opened.
Oh, I thought that was in the basement.
Mm-mm.
Oh, I don't
Yeah,
know
she
that
like went into the bedroom and then the closet opened, it creaked open, and
well,
then you see the hands come out.
that shit
She's
was
like
great.
looking in there, I couldn't
Yeah,
find anything.
that shit was fantastic. I
Yeah,
love that. And I loved like I will say again, I think this movie is very competent because I also appreciated the reincorporation where they explain that what's his name Patrick Wilson, he understands what exorcisms are and he's assisted in them but he's not like legally
allowed.
allowed or something, and then at the end he
Is
has to
there
do
any
one.
actual legality to exorcisms, or is that all just
I
full
probably not.
hockey?
Why would there be? I mean,
Right.
Chris, demons aren't real. Like, I hate to tell you this. Like, exorcisms are probably like the videos. Well, first of all, any video of an exorcism you've seen is probably like severely doctored. But any actual exorcism that happens is probably some poor mentally ill person getting abused
Yeah.
by people that have no idea what the fuck they're doing. I'm just guessing. I could
Yeah.
be wrong. I don't know. I I don't know if you knew this, but my goal is every episode to alienate another potential listener
Group,
because
a very niche group of viewers.
or viewer. Yeah, I think everything is stupid, and yeah. I don't believe in ghosts or goblins or demons or exorcism. Like, it's a fun concept.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies ever is The Exorcist. I think it's great. Also, one of the only movies that I find genuinely scary. Like, I that movie stuck with me my whole life. Like, there's just something about that movie that makes me very uneasy. And I remember when I saw, because I originally saw it like on VHS at my house, but I don't know if you remember, like, I think we were in high school and they re-released in theaters the cut you never saw or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So I saw it, obviously I saw it on TV or whatever, but when I saw that in the theater and I was probably 18 or 19 years old, it fucked me up. Like, it stuck with me like to
Yeah.
this day. Like, there's something about that movie that really just, I don't know, there's this it's an
We should do that
intangible.
one. That would be a good one to review, especially the backs, like the behind the scenes of The Exorcist 2.
It's almost two. Oh, The Exorcist 2. Oh yeah,
No,
well
The
yeah.
Exorcist, like not
Yeah.
number 2, but
Oh
um
yeah. I mean, it's great. I feel like it has. I used to have a rule on my other podcast where it was the too good rule, where you couldn't review something that was too good
yeah,
because then you'd just be glowing about it the whole time and there's
that's
no
true.
conflict.
Yeah.
But yeah, The
Maybe we won't
Exorcist.
talk about the movie itself, but rather like
Yeah,
all the
I'd be.
behind the scenes stuff, because that's just as messed up.
We could talk about The Exorcist 3. Have you ever seen that? It's fucking incredible.
I
It's
haven't.
very it's severely underrated. It's
Yeah.
very good. Well, you lived in DC for a long time. Did you ever go to the steps?
I did.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
But yeah,
Yep.
you
Very
have to.
popular.
You
Yeah,
have to.
it's a rite of passage
It's so
for any
cool.
horror fan.
All right, we got about 7 minutes left. What else do we want to talk about this movie? I mean, again, like it's kind of bland. There's kind of not a lot to pick
You,
apart.
so the best part I thought in the movie was
Hmm.
the chase scene in the end between um the mom and the daughter.
Yes,
Uh
I did enjoy that. Yes, that
Carolyn,
was
when she
yeah,
was possessed
yeah, that was cool.
by this witch, and it was her. So the witch kills the daughter, and so Carolyn becomes possessed and is looking for her daughter to murder.
Yeah,
And it's a race to see who can find the young girl first. They obviously don't want Carolyn to find her.
right, right.
Will murder her. So then this chase begins throughout the house, and it's just like that's when I was like, okay, this is getting good. But then
Yeah,
again, it
it's
was over
over. It's
so
over
quick.
before it gets
Oh,
started. Yeah.
and it was over. What ended the scene upset me
Hmm.
so much when she literally did like like in these mega churches where they put their hands
Oh, I know.
their
Yeah,
hands on the heads like you're healed, like does one of those.
yeah,
That's essentially what it was at the end of the film.
yeah. It was corny
Um,
as hell.
yeah,
Honestly, I thought that the exorcism scene was like super corny in general. Like, and
yeah,
maybe it's because I've seen that scene in so many movies, but like it just felt like there wasn't anything like dynamic about it. And again, the movie is not going to present you with something that's like truly like disturbing. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's probably unfair to compare it to The Exorcist because that's like the standard bearer, but like the exorcism scenes in that movie are disturbing. You have that little girl who in real life is freezing because they like shot that
How do you keep
like
it
that
cold?
all that scene in like a fucking ice box.
Yeah,
But like the whole like your mother sucks cocks in hell and all that, it's like gross and disturbing. And like the girl looks like Reagan, that was her name, right? She looks fucking terrifying the entire time, and you're uncomfortable because it's this this little girl. But like this movie, like any kind of semblance of that gets erased because they throw like a sack over her head, and it's just
yeah,
like, oh, okay. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I get it. Like the atmosphere is tense, and the concept of what's going on is unnerving, but like everything is moving so fast and it's so loud. It again, like I
Maybe that's the
harken back
secret
to,
to these movies, these
well, it's
mainstream
just
blockbuster horrors, is to scare people, but not for too long.
not for too long, and it distracts them. It's just like, well, James Wan directed this, and he famously directed Saw, and that
Mhm.
that was the example I used last week when I talked about movie stuff interfering with a good horror movie. Like
Yeah,
he's the master of that. Like Saw could have been like the most fucked up movie you've ever
right.
seen, but like, girl wakes up and there's a bear trap on her head.
Yeah,
That's terrifying. But then it's like Nine Inch Nails music and like cut, 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 cut. And it's like, okay, like
yeah,
I don't care anymore now. Like I'm not, this is a dumb movie for babies. Like I don't care anymore. Like,
yeah. I mean, they definitely appeal to a larger audience. It just isn't. We aren't that audience.
yeah, and I mean, I guess I should
That's clear.
clarify. I should clarify that like there's nothing wrong with liking this movie or being in that
No,
demographic, but
it's
like I just don't respond to this kind of stuff. Like I like movies like with a little jank to them, right? Like I like movies like that are a little challenging and maybe a little rough around the edges, like even as far as like the production values and like what they're doing. Like a movie like Censor, I think I've talked about on the show, is a movie I like a whole lot, but
yeah.
there's a little jank to that movie. Like this is just too polished,
Well, maybe we
too
should give the sequel a chance and see if that's any
yeah,
better than the original.
yeah, I would be down. Or The Nun or Annabelle
Right.
2 or any of those other ones. Like it's crazy that this is like a shared cinematic universe. Like it's fucking wild. But yeah, I don't know. I guess let's number score for you, Chris. We're down to 3 minutes.
Number score. So I was thinking about this last night, and I don't want to do just round scores. I think
Okay.
if we're gonna do a lot of episodes, we should do some decimal points in here.
Okay, okay.
So I'm thinking this is for me. This is a 5.6.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, it it was entertaining enough for me to stick through it, and I think they if it wasn't for the cast that they had, this
Yeah.
would have totally fallen flat. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know how they were able to get all these great actors on board, but I mean, they I thought they were great.
Yeah,
It just wasn't scary. I mean, my uh, real quick, my son really enjoyed it. He I asked him, he gave it an 8.
your son, famous Normie.
um, he uh, he really enjoyed it, and
That's good.
I think part of the reason is for what we just talked about. You know, it was scary for him at times, but it lasted. It went away as quickly as it came.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right, how
I can
about
see
you?
that. If we're going in the decimal system, I'm giving it like a 4.8. Like it's
Okay.
not terrible. That the thing is that so I think a 5 or somewhere around a 5 is sometimes worse than giving it like a 1 or a 2. Because to me, this movie is just vapor. Like I'm gonna forget all about this movie. Like I don't think this movie is memorable. It didn't really make an impact on me one way or another. And I think like if we do this show for a long time, I'm gonna forget we even reviewed this movie. Like it just went away. Like I don't think it's bad. And again, my job is to sound harsh and be a dickhead, right? But like it's my opinion, and like again, if you don't like what I like, that's perfectly fine. Most people don't. It's fine. I don't
Let me
care.
ask you a question. Would your score be the same if you didn't know the actual history of the Warrens?
I don't know. That's a good question. I honestly don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Maybe well, yeah, I think yes. It probably would be
Because now that
different.
I do, I feel like it drops to like
It
a
would be a little it would be a
4.3.
little higher. It would be a
Yeah.
little higher because like again, I have a hard time with like the legitimate like glorification of like terrible people. Like I mean, I don't know, but like
It made them look they made them out to be heroes.
yeah, and like without flaw. Like I kind of
Yeah.
want to see the movie where it's the Warrens, but like it's the real life Warrens and this happens. Like
Yeah.
they're like fucking conning these people and like I want to see that movie, but
Right.
anyway, we're probably about to cut off.
Yeah.
So.
It's almost over. We're gonna get cut off again for sure.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank
All
you
right.
for watching. Thank you for listening. Remember, keep reaching for those stars. That's our sign off.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Did you just come up with that?
Yeah.